All right, 8:33, and we are continuing with our Tiger Talk here this morning, and I have the pleasure of welcoming the president of the Trail of Tears Commission, Robert Ward, and board member Judy Boaz into the studio. How are you all this morning?
Good morning.
Doing very well, thank you.
Well, there are some exciting things. We've had some news stories about things going on with the Trail of Tears Commission, and you have a meeting coming up later this month, but tell us about some of the exciting things going on with our Trail of Tears Commission in our park here in town.
Well, first, I thought we should start with a little bit of the history in case folks out there don't really know. And the very first thing that was done, Van Knight, everybody remember Judge Executive Van Knight. He was behind this thing from the very beginning, and he signed a resolution designating a Trail of Tears Park all the way back in November of 2004. And the land that it sits on now, the park was donated by the Doctors Hall and Frankie, as long as the commission could come up with matching funds, and that all that had to do was what the land was worth. So I'm going to let Judy talk a little bit about some of the first members of the board and what they did.
Sure.
Again, back in 2004, there was a vision by several spearheaded, I will say, by Linda Johnson Higgins, rather, and with others that were concerned about the preservation and the history of the Trail of Tears area, which was down at Big Spring Park. Of course, in 1838 was the Indian removal that was done they were in the Carolinas, and the government forced them off their lands and forced them to march. Just more or less, the government came in and immediately forced some odd 14,000 people to march westward, and they were all sent in different detachments by groups of probably around 1,000 or so, or give or take, in different detachments and sent westward. They came through this area, and according to documentation, they came through the Big Spring area. Of course, that was a site for water. And at that time were buffalo, of course, so they came through and encamped in that area. Therefore, we, charter members, of which there was Sherry Jordan, John Humphreys, who was very instrumental in getting a lot of this done, and
Barry Bannister
at that time, Richard P. Poole, and myself, we, as a group, wanted to see that area preserved. So as Robert mentioned, the land was donated by the Doctors Frankie and Hall to the city of Princeton, and then with Judge Van Knight's 100% backing, we proceeded with plans for the park.
Right.
Now, in 2005, the paperwork was complete, and the group started officially being a group with plans to develop that park.
And they started out, I'm part of it now, we started out with a generous grant from the Morgan Foundation. They have donated several times since then. And the original committee, or the original three that done a lot of traveling around to see what the other Trail of Tears organizations were doing, was John Humphreys, Rumsey Taylor, and Linda Higgins. And so anyway, by 2006, Judy, you want to tell them about the design of the Trail of Tears Park?
About 2006, we had a local gentleman, Mr. Bruce Hanks, that had some ideas on the actual park design. And upon myself and Linda and another lady went to talk to Mr. Donald Van, who was an artist in Cherokee, North Carolina. And we had to get permission to use the teardrop design for the park. Of course, you don't probably notice it on the street, but if you go into the park, that area, the little focus in the park area is of a teardrop design.
Right.
It is brick encased, and within the teardrop design is flagstone, which we tried to think of native stones that would be perfect for that. It's flagstone with the center of the park in the flagstone area being a Cherokee, being a star with the 7 points, which represent the 7 clans of the Cherokee.
Okay.
And of course, since then, there have been plantings done and some landscaping done, all mostly by volunteers. Some things were purchased, some apple trees have been purchased, but most of the plantings were of donations.
It looks really nice. Let me ask you, how come you had to get? I might have missed it. The permission to use the tier.
The teardrop was actually, I suppose, a copyrighted.
Yeah.
Design.
That particular design.
Yes.
It was in one of his paintings.
I got you.
And in the teardrop there, I think if I remember it very well, there was a like Cherokee people in the snow.
Okay.
Was incorporated in
Yeah.
that teardrop. So the idea for the teardrop, they felt like, and I think it was the right
Probably
thing
the right
to do,
thing to do. Yeah.
to get permission
yeah.
from the artist that thought that up.
You don't think, you just think, well, it's a teardrop.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have to be careful.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And being on the safe side of that. And that year in 2006, then in May, they started the construction. Bruce Hanks donated the prep work, and the stone and the brick cost around $4,000, and pavers for the stone seating that surrounds the teardrop, that cost about another $3,000, and a total of that project was about $12,000. And like Judy said, since then, there's been plantings and people go there. Some of the committee, especially, can't say enough about Linda Higgins. She goes down there and pulls weeds constantly.
Yeah.
And if she's really into this, and it's a good thing we have people like that that'll do that.
Definitely. It's beautiful. It's coming together really nice. I know during Black Patch, I've been down there with my kids. It's nice. There's been booths down there. You've had the powwow and different things. Traditional dress has been there. There's some flautists. So it's a nice little area, and it's you all have done a fantastic job, and it just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it?
Well, it's like Robert and myself. We're interested in the history, as are the other commission members, and that's what it's all about: preserving it and the history of it. And we try to promote it through programs with the school, with the fifth graders. We have had in times past, and we always will. We'll usually have one big program a year down at the park. In times past, we've had a walk.
Right.
And, of course, sort of a fundraiser walk. And, again, we do programs down there with different native skills that are involved. And we always try to dress in native attire.
Mm-hmm.
And we have storytellers. So any way to promote the area and continue with the history. That's what we're all about.
Definitely.
Yeah, we go to schools and talk to kids. We've been to Lyon County, and we've been out here to our schools, Caldwell County. Sometimes we get to talk to younger than fifth graders, but fifth graders most every year we get to talk with them, and they always have a real good take on things. I always like to hear them talk about, what they're learning while we're there, and we try real hard not to teach them anything that isn't proper to history. It's a big thing to try to stay as authentic as you possibly can, and we've been doing this kind of thing for years, and I hope we get to continue doing that. A lot of people do a lot of behind-the-scenes work. They may not come to the schools, but the other things they do need to be done, and they're a lot of help that way.
Definitely. So you've got this meeting coming up on the 22nd of July, and I believe you have a guest coming, and he's going to, I guess, unveil a design. Is that correct?
That's correct. Robert, you want to talk about that?
Matt Large will be at our meeting. Our meeting is the 22nd of July, and Matt.
It's considered our annual.
It's annual meeting, and that's when everybody re-ups their dues and that kind of thing.
This is at the Tourism Center.
And this is going to be
downtown.
at the Tourism Center this year. And Matt Large is coming down. He is the artist we have chosen to help design and do the memorial. I'm going to call it a memorial because to me a statue is of an individual or an animal or whatever, but this is going to be a memorial, and it is going to be dedicated to the Cherokee people that walk the Trail of Tears. and we're looking really forward. We have met, the board has, with Matt, and he has shown us some initial drawings and things, and we've chosen one that we think is going to be the emblematic of the struggle that those people were going through at that time, and so we're in the process. I guess it's all right to talk about raising money for this thing, and we figure the project's going to run us, I'm going to say all in all with the base and everything, somewhere over $20,000. And we've managed to raise through individual donations, and both large and small, and some public and some private. We've managed to raise somewhere in the neighborhood of $16,000.
You're on your way,
and we're on our way. And I have to say, I kind of rained on their parade a few times. I never thought we could put this money together as quickly as we've been able to.
Right.
And it's kind of taken on a life of its own. And I'm really looking forward to the annual meeting and see how things go from there.
Well, fantastic. And Mr. Large, Matt will be down for that meeting. Now,
Yes.
Will he bring a drawing? Will he bring a
He'll
rough?
probably bring a drawing.
Probably
Yeah.
most
My
likely to be
understanding.
drawings.
Now, Matt, by the way, his father is George Large.
Exactly.
I was
that
wondering
lives
about
here in
that.
Princeton, that's
you know.
married to Connie.
Yes.
Yes.
Connie,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And well, in that neat. Now, how did Matt come into the picture with this?
Well, when we got to talking about doing something like this, George is one of our board members
Okay.
too, committee members, whatever you want to call it. He thought that maybe Matt might be interested in the project, and asked kind of what we thought about it, and we didn't have any new extra things going. We thought, hey, this would be a good thing to do. It would be a good addition to the park, and might help draw a few more tourists down there. Anyway, he talked to him, and Matt came up and met with us, and he bought some initial drawings and asked what we thought and that kind of thing, and so we believe he's the man for the job. He has local ties, and it's something we don't always get a chance to do when
Sure.
you're doing a project like this.
Sure. What would this? What was the material to be made out of? Do we know?
I wish it's called a lost wax cast, and it's I'm not going to say it's bronze. It looks like bronze.
It looks
I wish
like bronze, but it's not.
I wish
don't know.
I wish George was here. He could
But
tell you
that's
all
okay.
about
I mean,
this.
it's very hard. Rarely do I ask a question that stumps anybody.
Well, I just think that it's really going to stand out from the background that we
Yeah.
put it on, and I wish I knew more about that.
That was my next question, though. But where is it going to go? Do you have a place where it's
We
going to
have
go
a
in the park?
spot. We've sort of walked it around down there and
Yeah.
with vision where it would go, and I think we decided on a front area.
Good.
of the
Yeah,
park,
kind of
obviously, where it's
close
seen.
to the little parking area, but more back toward the lower end of the teardrop, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay.
That's one of the places we've decided that it might look good there. Of course, keeping in mind that every now and then it will flood down through there. We're going to put a pretty good base on the thing, and we've had a input from some other people on that. They figured what the base would weigh and what the ground will stand and that kind of thing. So it's been pretty thoroughly
well thought out,
researched.
yeah.
And I mean, you don't put a big old rock down there and just expect it to stay. It just sometimes they move, or they'll fall over. But we feel like that this is going to be an important memorial
Sure.
to those people that came through here
Sure.
when they really shouldn't have. It's the way it was.
Right. They were forced to come through here, and
Exactly.
it was just a place for them to bed down and hopefully make it to the next destination.
Yeah.
Really. And
a
that's
lot
what
of the input for our area initially came as well from the state Trail of Tears president. She was meeting with us off and on, Alice Mumphrey. She would meet with us and give us suggestions, and of course she was responsible for a lot to work with the Department of Transportation on signage.
Mhm.
Okay.
Of course, we have signage
Yes.
not only there, but all the way out on that marks the original Trail of Tears.
Yes.
So we've had a lot of professional input on everything involved with the park.
yeah, some parts of the trail still exist, and some of them in pretty bad shape, but they're still there, and you're able to go and see those. Like she said, Miss Alice, she lives in Hopkinsville. She's been really good to help us. She is familiar with the people that you have to talk to get things like this done.
Right.
And she helped us with getting the signs, and they took it. The commission. I'm kind of a Johnny come lately. I haven't been a member of this probably maybe 6 or 7 years, but they really the committees and the commission, local commission, has done a great job, I think, of doing things and keeping things going. This newest project that we're embarking on, we just started talking about that. I want to say January or February.
Yes, not very long.
Not
Wow.
very long ago, and I mean, like I said, I kind of rained on a parade a few times because I just didn't see that we could raise money, and several of them said, "Oh, yes, we can do it, we can do it, we can do it," and by golly, we have.
Yeah.
I mean, or at least we're on our way.
Yeah,
anyway.
definitely.
Keep in mind, like we talked earlier, this has been a 10-year thought.
Right.
Initially,
That's exactly
it was put
right.
on paper back in 2007.
That's right. I forgot that.
And therefore, it's just now coming about. So we've been 10 years in
We-
the process.
That's true, and it's so nice because every once in a while on the paper or you're just driving through town, you will see groups, whether they're cyclists or maybe hikers or somebody. If it's they might be saying, "Well, I'm walking the Trail of Tears," or "We're doing this," and they'll stop there, and it's nice to have, we'll have a nice park, commemorating the Trail of Tears, and then it complements, of course, the springs right over there too, and I don't know, it's just a nice setting, and especially if you're interested in the history of it, and you see people traveling through town, it's just a nice thing.
Of course,
Yep.
we entertain the Trail of Tears bicyclists
That's
every
right.
year.
Yeah, they were
come
here.
through.
And that's
they
maybe what I
route
was
to-
thinking of. Yeah,
Through in the route to Tahlequah.
yeah.
See, they were here about
Oklahoma.
3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice
so, yeah.
people, and they're like the most of us. They're really interested in their history, and they've had some people that's ridden it almost every year. They had one guy that came back that was on the very first time they ever done the bicycle ride, and he was back here this year, and he was amazed at what had been done and the signs and all this, and he was really thoroughly impressed with the amount of progress that has been made, and of course that I'm certain includes every little Trail of Tears commission that's in each little town where there is one. They're really nice people, and real respectful, and it's kind of an experience just to watch them their reaction to the
Yeah.
park and the area and everything like that.
Sure.
If I'm not mistaken, we are only one of 7 certified
believe
sites
that's
in the
correct.
state of Kentucky.
Really.
Yep.
Did not know that.
Certified Trail of Tears.
Certified
Yeah.
Trail of Tears. Yeah.
The other one that close to us is down at Belmont
Okay. Good ways away.
State Park.
Yeah.
Well, let's see
And
now.
then is there not one at Livingston Creek?
Well,
area?
and Linda Bennett's
Linda Bennett's.
the old farm area, the tavern area,
Oh,
part
well.
of an original building that's still there, and they stop there every time they come through too.
Oh, okay.
So Caldwell County has a pretty good amount of things going for it in that respect.
Definitely.
And I thank God for all the people that do what they do to help our
And preserve that
thing
history.
out, to help preserve that history. That's exactly right.
No doubt about it. So what people listening, people seeing, viewing online, they say, "Hey, I'd like to help with that," or "I want to get involved." Let's talk about that. How can they get involved?
Well, we welcome anyone that wants to join our
Yeah.
group. We meet every other month as of now,
Yeah.
and we usually meet on what day is it?
This on a Tuesday, the
Tuesday?
second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday.
Second Tuesday.
And we've been meeting at the City Hall
Yep.
up in
Okay.
the little conference room.
Yes.
Yeah.
But of course, this month I don't guess we'll have
We
a meeting
won't-
until our annual.
Yeah,
meeting,
we'll
which
have the
is-
annual
Which is
meeting
July
is
22nd.
and that
July
would be a good
22nd.
time for people
Yeah.
to come and join.
Well,
Okay.
I'd like to invite anybody that's interested in helping with this current project, or especially interested in getting involved with the group, to come to that meeting if they can. And it's July 22nd at the Tourism Center, and the time escapes me. I believe you're right. It's either 5 or 6. I think he knows.
Well, I do have a note here, and I've got it
Saturday
somewhere.
night.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, yeah, we want to invite everybody to come that wants to get involved and be a part of that, because it's a great group of folks. I know y'all work hard. I know Linda Johnson Higgins, like you said, she is always ready to go. She actually called and got you guys in here today. She goes, "I've got a program for you," and I said, "Well, I want it," you know. So and she was instrumental, and boy, we got on the phone and away we went.
Well, Linda doesn't
5 p.m.
5 p.m. Okay, July 22nd, 5 p.m. We invite any interested individual to come, and you will get to see the presentation by Matt Large, and you will get to get kind of a little bit see how we operate. And so we really invite you all to come on out and be with us.
And we hope maybe, we really haven't talked it yet, but I tend to think we probably will have a program sometime between now and winter. Maybe at our park, right, with the kids, or something open to the public.
Yeah, if we can.
If we can.
Yeah.
We
Well,
try to do that.
You know, we talked the other day when you were here.
Yeah.
The history is so important, and it's the history of these peoples that were marched across from their homeland, out west. Very important to preserve that and learn lessons from that, and that's just part of what you all do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes, it is.
History.
And we need to preserve our history and remember our history and be proud of our history.
Exactly.
And there's things we look back and maybe not be so proud of, but know that it happened.
It still happened. You can't change that. You can go back and you can, we talked about this the other day, you and I did.
Yeah.
You learn from history.
Sure.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
And if you can't learn from it, sooner or later it's going to happen again. And this is not, we don't want to go back to that kind of thing. We need to be more forward looking. But at the same time, you've got to keep in your mind's eye what came before.
Yeah.
And if you, like I said the other day, if you forget your history, you're going to repeat it.
Yeah.
And we don't need to do that. There's so much other better things out there for this country than to repeat what's already happened.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just like you said, too, you've got to, the young people need to know their history, because if
They
it
do.
dies out with the young people, it will be no longer.
Yeah,
you know.
right. Just,
We need to pass on what we know to our children and our grandchildren. Maybe they won't be very receptive, but maybe somewhere down the road, these thoughts will come to them that, hey, I remember my grandmother telling me that. I need to write that down, remember that.
Right.
Well, that's the thing about the writers when they come through. They have learned their history, and they know, and they choose not to forget
right.
those that come before, and that's where we all need to end up. I would rather know too much about history than not.
Definitely.
It's kind of a waste to not learn where you've come from.
Definitely.
And we went all through that the other day, and that's the reason I like all eras of history, and it's not just Kentucky, but it is national history too.
Sure. Well, congratulations to you all. Appreciate your hard work that you do with the Trail of Tears Commission, and good luck in getting the rest of the funds for this. We know it's going to happen. If someone says, "Hey, I don't know if I want to be part of a commission, but I'll give you a little money for this," who do they contact?
I'd say send it down to the city hall.
Send
Would
it
that be the
City
best
Hall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Send it to City Hall.
Make notes for
Yeah,
the Trail of Tears.
Just address it to Trail of Tears, and it's
Okay.
at the City Hall, and
Okay.
that would get to us.
Okay.
They're really good to help us down there a whole lot that way on things. So
Currently, our treasurer is Diane Knox, and we're all very disturbed, and we want to lift her up in prayers.
Yes,
She's
yes,
having
ma'am.
a hard time right now.
Yes, ma'am. We certainly do. Prayers and good thoughts to Diane.
Exactly.
And
she's another of those people that they don't toot their own horn, but in the background there's a lot going on, and they keep us straight on some things. Sometimes we come up with these ideas and we can't do it that way. We can't do it that way.
Yeah.
But see, she's been through all these pitfalls before. And there again, that's sort of like learning your history. You better listen to people that have been there and done that.
That's right.
So anyway,
right.
but we appreciate the radio station's time for having us up here. And do remember, everyone, it's just a week from this Saturday at 5 o'clock at the Tourism Center. We invite anyone and everyone who would like to come and participate with us, or just come and see the little program. We want y'all to come on out there if you would.
Definitely. And thank you all for your time. Pleasure seeing both of you all. That's Robert Ward. He's the president of the Trail of Tears Commission at this time. Judy Boaz, longtime board member. And they invite you to their meeting on Saturday night, July 22nd, their annual meeting down at the Princeton Tourism Center at 5 o'clock. Get involved with the Trail of Tears Commission. Great things going on. And go down and enjoy our park down by Big Springs.
Yep.
And just take in what Princeton has to offer, and the great sights, and go down there and just take a few minutes and just ponder a few things. It'll change you. It'll make you give you pause for thought. So thank you both for being here today.
Thank you.
And that's going to wrap up our Wednesday